I'm Sharyl Attkisson in Michigan, where presidential politics is in full play. In Poland, with U.S. troops who are part of a live-fire exercise less than 40 miles from the Russian border. And way across Georgia, I'm Sharyl Attkisson in Europe, where illegal immigration is upending politics. This week, we wrap up Season 10 of Full Measure with highlights of some of your favorite stories and ours. The biggest story all around, President Trump and a second term.
So I think our economy is going to roar. I think our stock market's going to do great.
How long would you suggest people may have to wait before they say on a daily basis, wow? We were all over the border crisis and the fix. It's the first full day of the Trump presidency, and change is coming to the beleaguered southern border. We also traveled the globe to bring you underreported stories from beyond our own borders. Do you expect that Russia knows what's going on today?
Absolutely.
And we remained on the leading edge of America's chronic health crisis and the complete rethink on how to make America healthy again.
We have the sickest generation of kids that we've ever had in our country, and we are the sickest country in the world.
A look back at Full Measure's blockbuster Season 10 is ahead. Welcome to a special edition of Full Measure, where we wrap up a full season of incredible stories in an unprecedented news cycle. And while many news organizations are reporting drops in viewership, we bucked the trend. We had an amazing year with notable increases. Today we start with the story of the year. Wherever you stand politically, it has to be the remarkable re-election of Donald Trump and his first 100 days. It's worth mentioning that we asked to interview candidate and then President Joe Biden, and before him, candidate Hillary Clinton, countless times. They never agreed. But Trump said yes 9 times. It was here on Full Measure that he first outlined a plan for mass deportations of illegal immigrants in 2023. Also in 2023, here, he predicted Biden wouldn't make it to the finish line to run against him in 2024. We may have been first to ask him about working with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., at the time running for president as a Democrat. And this season, we interviewed candidate Trump shortly before the election. On immigration, which you've mentioned, most people seem to think that you can tighten up the border. And for the untold millions who are here illegally that you referred to, you've talked about a mass deportation program. How is that practically possible? Because a lot of the millions of people have had children here who are American citizens. And don't you think the first time there is an image on television of a family tearfully being told to board a bus, that whole program would end?
That's right. If you take a young woman with 2 beautiful children and you put her on a bus and it ends up on the front page of every newspaper, it makes it a lot harder.
So yes to mass deportation even of women and children.
So we're going to look
at
it very closely. The way you phrase it is exactly right. You put one wrong person onto a bus or onto an airplane, and your radical left lunatics will try and make it sound like the worst thing that's ever happened. But we're getting the criminals out, and we're going to do that fast.
We also interviewed President Trump after he'd been back in office a few weeks in his second term. I would say the border has to be, very early in this administration, the single most tangible, quick impact people saw.
Yeah.
I think 96% or above decrease in illegal border crossings. And the mass deportations, I don't know how many of those. Are you satisfied with how that's going so far?
Yeah, I think they're doing an incredible job, and it's a tough job, too. We have 99% improvement from Biden. And that was his better year. You know, he started around the election working a little bit harder, and they got a little bit better. It was horrible still. So we're comparing it to his best time. Comparing it to the worst time, it's like, it's not even, you can't calculate it how much better. So we have now the best border we've ever had, and we did that in a period of 5 weeks. Pretty amazing, actually.
With Trump's inauguration, there's been the most dramatic turnaround with tightened border security in the history of this country. Also on season 10 of Full Measure, we continued our in-depth reporting of this top issue in the election and a recurrent theme for over a decade. We visited the southern border as Trump was being sworn in. It's the first full day of the Trump presidency, and change is coming to the beleaguered southern border.
President Biden, with his executive order declaring this a non-emergency, shut it all down. It froze in time, and what you see is what's left, and then the fencing wall that sat here for the last 4 years.
These stacks of metal are actual pieces of border wall that were paid for and ready to install 4 years ago when the Biden administration brought everything to a sudden halt.
Look at the money sitting here.
So you think they'll use this now?
Yes. Yep. There's no reason not to. This was all under, this has been sitting here since Trump left office the first time.
We also reported on some other fascinating political trends around the globe that mirror sentiment in the U.S. We had a rare interview with the president of Poland, derided as a populist by some, but praised by those who elected him and, like Trump, cracking down on the border. Are great numbers of people coming to Europe expecting a free ride?
Myślę, że w bardzo wielu przypadkach tak jest.
Yes, I think that in very many cases we have such a situation. That's why there is such a reaction in the west of Europe.
Poland responded to the onslaught from Belarus by building a 15-foot-tall border fence. Donald Trump obviously wanted to build fencing and wall. You built a fence or some sort of barrier. There are parallels here that I just think are interesting that we don't hear much about in the United States.
Po to, żeby pokazać, że
The reason I'm describing the situation in Europe is because I want to show to you that you are not the only ones who are affected. Our continent, our societies are also confronting such a problem.
While in Europe, we reported another unique story. We were one of the few television crews ever permitted on the front lines as U.S. troops conducted exercises with foreign NATO partners near the Russian border. These are live-fire NATO exercises in northeast Poland. It's rare that journalists are permitted to literally be in the midst to observe. This spot is chosen for its strategic importance, a mere 37 miles from Russia, and not far from a place often called NATO's weak spot. The Suwalki Gap in Poland. It's a 40-mile-long stretch of land between a Russian territory and Russian ally Belarus. If Russia were to attack from both sides, it could separate NATO countries Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania from Poland and the rest of Europe.
Kaliningrad, Russia is about 60 kilometers to our north.
Lieutenant Colonel Patrick Maris from Birmingham, Alabama, is commander over this NATO training exercise. Does the fact of simply conducting exercises act as a deterrence?
Sure. It's interacting with multinational forces across NATO. It's partnering with Polish forces. Is all an effort to deter any adversaries.